your customers, presented by Growth Strategy Partners and sponsored by the National Association of Sporting Goods Wholesalers. I'm Moser Morris, the president of NASGW. Just a few announcements before we begin the program. Your session will be presented today by Chris DeCenzo and George Harris of Growth Strategy Partners. GSP is a management consulting firm which accelerates revenue and profit growth of privately held companies by implementing their research based on 7 keys to growth. The firm focuses on the shooting sports industry and has worked with many companies in the industry, including Benelli, Beretta, Bond Arms, NRA, NSF, Ruger, and Surefire, in addition to NASGW. Chris DeCenzo is a managing partner of the firm and has been improving sales and operations for over 25 years. He started as a manufacturing engineer for Stern Ruger, then built the business as a consultant with PricewaterhouseCoopers, Grant Thornton, and Inc. magazine before starting his own firm. George Harris is the director of the firm. George founded the Sig Sauer Academy and later founded the Sig Pro Shop, leading them both to become major profit centers before retiring after 21 years of service to the company. He has spent his entire adult life working in the industry of firearms. A program evaluation will be sent to you following the webinar. Please complete the brief survey as we plan future topics and programs on behalf of our member firms. I'll now turn the program over to Chris and George.
Thanks, Mo. Thanks, Mo, very much. George, you're there, right? I'm here. And I do see, I'm just seeing a chat here about people questioning the echo. I think the echo's gone, at least that we're hearing on our side. If you're hearing it on your side, go to the audio component of that window and click on telephone if you've called in, and the computers if you're listening it through your computer. That should, it's fine now. Thanks, Terry. Okay, good. Today we're going to talk about cross-selling and growing revenues and profits. So let's just jump right into it. Isn't things much easier now? We've got all the demands that we want. Customers are great. We can't keep up with the orders. We're making lots of money, taking lots of vacation. I don't know about you, but I think that's how we see it. Maybe not. Let's talk about the current situation. We'll talk about how cross-selling is going to fit into that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a few topics and let George give us a little insight. George, what's going on with shooters these days?
Oh, man, you know, we got more shooters. Everybody's getting into the program. You know, women in particular are getting more into shooting. Folks get more interested in personal defense. Hunting is starting a resurgence, competitive shooting. So literally we've got more people that are interested in shooting from a recreational standpoint, if not a personal defense standpoint.
That's a good thing, right?
Absolutely. Keeps us in business.
How about laws, regulations? What's going on there?
Interestingly, on a national level, you know, even with, you know, some of the mass shootings that have gone on in the past year, we haven't seen a whole lot go on the national level. States, on the other hand, New York and Connecticut, as an example, you know, have just gone completely off the scale to penalize the gun owner. Then, if you look at Arizona, Idaho, Montana, they've kind of gone the other direction. They're trying to free things up. So geographically, it's dependent on, you know, what the political sway may be. From a local standpoint, you know, you've got some towns or cities, New York City as an example. I don't know what those people are thinking. You know, they literally are just trying to eliminate guns. Washington D.C. is pretty much the same thing. So, you know,
nobody from New York here today, I think. At least that's what I've seen by the list. Although we got some Massachusetts folks, which I appreciate.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, you know, we got room for everybody.
Demand, you know, we've had 2012 has been great for the shooting sports industry. 2013 started off well. I assume everybody here has seen a slowdown. All our clients have slowed down. it's going beyond a feverish pitch. It was interesting. I was looking at the NICS, the NICS checks. Comparing 2012 to 2011, NICS are up 19%. Year to date through 13, so November to November, comparing 2012 to 2013, NICS checks in 2013 are up 13%. Now, what's interesting is that December of last year was I use the word anomaly. There was more NICS checks that month than any other month in the last 5 years. So if you normalize that, and I do my projection on what December this year is going to look like, we're going to look at an 8 to 10% increase this year versus 19% the year before. Things are slowing down. There's no question about it. I think we've all felt that. We're getting the chain stores. A lot more chain stores, big box retailers coming into the market are starting to distribute the products. That adds more complexity to our businesses in terms of the requirements that they have. Yes, they're getting more volume, which is a great thing, but the complexity and the, say, stress and needs of these chain stores have increased. What about customers, George? What's going on with customers these days?
Yeah, everybody's looking for a deal. There's plenty of stuff on the market, and for a while there was great deal of demand, and nobody could find anything. We ramped up and filled the market, and now that people are able to get pretty much what they want to, they're looking for the best deal and how they can parlay that into other products or blending those types of products.
And then what about competition?
Well,
there isn't any now, is there?
Not really, but if you look at ARs as an example, I mean, a new AR company pops up every day, it seems like, in 1911s.
We got a few on listening in, George, so be nice, okay?
Yeah, I understand. Well, they're all good. It's no issue with that. But you would have thought the 1911 being over 100 years old would have kind of taken a sideline to some of the newer guns. And 1911s are as popular now as they ever have been, and it's just still more and more coming on. Even things like bolt-action hunting rifles just never ceases to amaze me at how those are so popular, and people are bringing out new different types of rifles. Ruger's come up with a very low end but high quality, good shooting gun in a market that you just wouldn't have thought that they'd have been able to do anything. Heck, they can't make them fast.
So where does this bring us, right? We've got some new shooters. Laws haven't added more demands. Demand's really slowing down. And if I had my crystal ball, I'm guessing it's going to be flat to down over the next few years, obviously, unless there's an incident. The customers are more demanding, and competition to me is there's more of it out there. This is something that we're seeing in this industry. We work in a couple other industries, and we see it the same situation. And basically, it's becoming tougher and more difficult to be successful in a high-performing organization. In fact, the term we use, what we talk about, is that B is the new C. And referring to grades, A, B, C, D, F. In fact, we somewhat refer to, there's some companies that are A performers. They do very, very well. B performers, C being average. And what we're finding now is that from a performance perspective, companies have to operate at the B level. They have to be B competency, B management systems, above average, to get a C result. And everyone listening here today, I'm sure, I hope, has done well over the last few years, but it's going to get more difficult. And what we're going to share with you today is how to prepare and be more successful. Again, when you talk about growth, it's about beating the competition and doing better than they are. So what we're going to share with you today is how can you do better, and where does that come into play with cross-selling? Cross-selling is a standard sales technique that you should have mastered. And to the extent that you haven't, we're going to give you some insights on how to do that today. So that's the whole setup here. It's not getting easier. It's getting more difficult. And here's a little technique or tool that should help you generate more sales, more profits. Mo was great to go through our backgrounds. I'll just highlight the fact that I've been shooting for 25 plus years and also run this consulting firm. So I actually have a great time that I can basically consult in the morning, go shoot in the afternoon, and I've got a good, happy lifestyle. George?
25 years, you're kind of an old guy. As a matter of fact, for anybody that's interested, it's Chris's birthday today. So send him an email and wish him a happy birthday. I won't tell you how old he is, but he's an old guy. I'm an even older guy, and I'm pretty fortunate in that I started life in the firearms world and have maintained that, and I frequently tell people I've never worked a day in my life, just simply because I enjoy doing what I do so much. And, I'm completely immersed into all aspects of the firearms business, and, I'm very thankful for that.
Great. I'll tell you real quickly again about Growth Strategy Partners. What makes us unique is that we've identified or conducted some research that you see here on what drives growth. My background's engineering. Genetically, I'm an engineer, and I wanted to understand, is there some success, some formula, some keys to building a long-term successful business? And we've got research with over 600 CEOs and high-performing organizations, and we've identified, or through this research, we've identified that there's these we call 7 keys to growth, or 7 fundamentals. And we found that companies that implement these 7 are more successful, so therefore we built a consulting practice around implementing these 7 keys. And by doing that, our clients are growing faster and more profitable. And what you'll see here looking at these 7, you'll see quickly strategic planning, companies that have a defined growth plan, strategic plan. They build their talent, this right seats with the right people. They know and when to hire and do a better job at it than the rest. Customer management is what we're going to talk today when it gets into cross-selling, but that's really about knowing your customers better than they know themselves. Processes is focused on the operations of your business. Differentiated products and services is not about having necessarily innovative, but differentiate. How do you differentiate it? And we have a lot here in the industry that are reselling a lot of the same manufacturers' products. How do you do that? Companies that do that, they have strong core values and they can execute more or execute better or more successful. So these are the 7 keys, and if you want to learn more, go look at our website and we can tell you about how you can assess yourself for free actually and see how well you're performing these 7. So let's get into the meats of this. The meats of this, that's a Boston term. When we talk about growth, there's a matrix that we use. It's called the Ansoff's matrix because he created it. And aside from growing your business by raising prices or merging or acquiring other firms, there's actually 4 ways to grow. You have your existing customers and you have new customers, and then you have your existing products and services. And I'm not going to go through this in great detail, but basically you can sell more of your existing products to existing customers. This is what we call market penetration. Hey, let's get complex here. Let's go get some new customers and sell our existing products and service to them. We could introduce new products, or diversification where you do both. Now, point with this is if you're going to grow your business 10, 20%, where's the growth coming from? The quadrant that is most often ignored or not focused on is quadrant 1, and that's where cross-selling comes into play, and that's what we're going to talk about. So cross-selling, by definition, you're selling other of your existing products to existing customers. Not new products, not new customers. You're selling existing products, things that you already offer to existing customers. You know that there's customers that aren't buying all your products. In fact, you probably know which products they're not buying or which categories. Well, let's see what we can do to help you today to sell more of them. Okay? So the themes and things we want you to remember as you go through to this is you've got a lot going on. Most people on the call today are in the sales organization. Actually, just the insight, we have mostly manufacturers here and some distributors, and I think as Mo said earlier, we have some sales reps. So we've got a good diverse group, but there's more manufacturers. But all of us have barriers that we need to overcome to do all these projects. We've got existing customers, new products, new customers, compensation systems. How are we going to overcome the barriers to start another initiative? This initiative should be a basic. You also need to know what we call your customer math. And we're going to show you what that math is. It gets into what they're buying and how they're buying it. You need to know why your customers buy. If I could share with you probably the one thing, every time we work with a client or we're going to prospect, they don't know really why their customer buys from them. And if you don't know why they buy, how can you service them? We're going to talk today about how to help you understand how they buy. You got to build, obviously, incentives. When we do this cross-selling or any sales program, most people on the phone here are sales-oriented. You know you need some reward system, especially with the type A salespeople. Well, let's develop a cross-selling sales incentive to support this plan, but then also let's measure it. Okay, you got to measure performance. So that's what we're going to hit on today. Before we jump in to the guts of this, we're actually going to have a quick question. Actually, it's a quick poll. So I'd ask you to look at your screen, and I'm going to launch this poll, and it's asking you how robust is your cross-selling program at this point right now. So what I'd like you to do is if you would go and just click one of the boxes. So it's, we have a very robust one at the top. It's very defined, very successful. The other one would be it's somewhat strong. We've developed a program, but maybe not doing it all the time. You know, it's weak. We have people doing it kind of on their own, or at the bottom, none. What's cross-selling? Don't know what that is. So I see we've got over 50% voted so far. So please click on how you think your program is structured at this point, and I will show this to you in just a second. Good, because we're actually getting almost 80%. This is kind of interesting. I've never had a poll come out this way, George, but you're going to see what's going to be on in 1 second. I'm going to close it. Everybody's done. Here's going to be an interesting poll. I'm going to close it. I'm going to share it with you. And
I have never seen that myself. Well, that means we've got a good group with continuity.
100%. We've never had them answer 100% that in one answer. So it's weak. You select salespeople who do it on their own. Okay, well, that gives us all our perspective. In fact, everyone knows where each other now maybe is coming from. All right, let's go on. I'll show you the, let's go to the next slide here. Okay, we seeing building your cross-selling program, George?
Yep.
So let's talk about what it takes to build this program. I'm not going to go into the fact that you need some commitment, dedication, all that part. I'm assuming you have that already, which is probably a very gross assumption. But that said, what we're going to go through is first showing you how to build what we call the cross-selling matrix, prioritize who you're going to sell to and what you're going to sell, develop a plan, conduct some training, and then measure and review the performance. So it's pretty simple 5-step. Again, this isn't necessarily rocket science, but it is something you need to kind of walk through in a logical, planned manner. So first, we're going to talk about building this cross-selling matrix. One thing that I am known for as an engineer is putting everything in quadrants and matrices. What we're going to look at, and I'm going to show you an example here in a second, is to identify what you're selling and to whom you're selling it to. Now, we have people here that are distributors, and they're selling multiple types of products, categories like rifle, shotguns, ammo, accessories. We have some that are just doing flashlights or just doing rifle scopes, in which case, and maybe some accessories with them, but it's less broad. Ideally, when you start building this matrix, start at the higher level, typically at the category level, as I'm showing here. Then you can peel it down into, say, the item level. I'm showing you the P210, 222. This is one of the SIG models of their pistol. So, and when you do that, what you're going to see is something like this. Okay, here's a a cross-selling matrix. What you have across the top is the categories. Here I've got rifles, pistols, shotguns, and say accessories. Down the left side is the customers. And in the middle is the last 12 months of sales. Okay, what have they purchased from you? Now, we're going to expand on this, but to start, can you generate a report that has your customers by category? And the categories here, rifle, pistol, shotgun. Again, if you don't have all the categories, if, say, you're only doing something with scopes, you might then look at types of scopes. Or if you're doing some pepper spray, it might be models or types of pepper spray. If you've just got rifles, you're doing ARs. We've got a few AR companies online. You know, it might be the type of AR, size, model, of industry. I know, George, we were talking earlier, it was interesting, when you were at SIG, again, you don't have products, you have services from a training academy perspective. What was you told me, I think there was 3 categories you had, 3 services you offered?
Yeah, when we started the academy, the idea was to provide services to the law enforcement military community that bought the firearms, and we started off with instructor development, teaching the people in the field how to teach their respective units or employees how to use the guns, and then we saw that there was a need for maintenance. People didn't understand cleaning and lubrication to a manner sufficient to keep the guns running in a lot of cases. So, we branched off and put together a maintenance program, and not everybody wanted instructor development. They just wanted somebody to come in and to teach the program, so we put together a skill development program. So basically we offered 3 different levels or 3 different types of training that were independent of one another. And as time went on, we saw that there was a need for actual product, and that's where the SIG Pro Shop came into being. We weren't selling guns per se, but we saw that people needed night sights, or they needed lights or grips or other types of accessories and that kind of stuff. So unlike the engineering thing of putting things in boxes, I tended to think of outside of the box and how can we better service the customer. So
so this is a good way, another example, sorry, that we can, the audience here can look at how they categorize, their products. Most everyone here is product oriented.
Exactly, and we looked at a broader base type of things, and that's the reason that you and I work so well together. You tend to be a little bit more structured, and I tend to be a little bit more looking for other opportunities, and that's what gave us a lot of success at the academy and going in so many different directions, but yet keeping it under control as well.
Control's good. Control's good.
Absolutely.
So the first thing we need to do is build this matrix, and now we're going to expand on it. Okay, and what we're trying to do here is we're trying to identify, where are there holes, where are there opportunities for more sales. So we've now just taken this spreadsheet, basically, or I call it a matrix, and now we're looking at opportunities for more sales. It's interesting. We've done this a number of times with clients and helped them develop this template. We've actually helped them at times. They don't have the categories structured correctly, or all the pistols don't roll up under a pistol category and rifle category and so forth. But when we do that and you generate this report, there's always some ahas that come out of it, just running the report alone. What you're seeing here is highlight on where the sales are below average. So here at the first customer, Tora, they're in the 200,000 in all these other categories, and obviously at pistols it's a lot lower. Big company has accessories that are much lower. So, and you can even see areas where they're not buying shotguns at all. Now, all this is saying is that it's low. It's not saying obviously why. So you've now got to interpret this data a little more. But what we have started to do, and what you should start to do, is start identifying how much opportunity in sales dollars is out there. Now, to do that, we might need a little more information. Again, I'm basically taking the spreadsheet and keep adding columns to it, but I'm not showing everything we have because you wouldn't be able to see it. But what's the average sales dollar for that customer? What's the gross margin, GM being gross margin or operating margin? So let's look at profitable customers, not just sales customers. Again, you could add what's the revenue, what's the size of the company. You can get units. Units is obviously a good thing to look at in terms of volume. And then we're starting to look here at some customer characteristics. So in this case here, we're going to talk about your wallet rank. And you can hear another measure of customer interface interaction is called the market wallet, share of the wallet. And we started off with understanding, trying to calculate how much business are you getting from your customer. So with a distributor, some of the distributors here, even the manufacturers, now if you're a manufacturer, you may sell that only backup site, or you've got your own branded sites, your own branded barrels, or scopes. But if someone's buying, say, backup sites from you, how many backup sites do they buy in total? So if you look at backup sites as a category, what percentage of the dollars are they giving you versus everybody else? If you're a distributor and you're selling the SIG 226, are they buying all the 226s from you, or are they kind of spreading it out? So this wallet rank is looking at what percentage of the purchases from your customer are you getting based on what their total purchases are, either for that item or that category. Now, originally we started off putting in, guesstimating percentages, and really what you're doing, you're just guessing. So then we changed to a ranking. So this number one rank here with Tura means that they are getting a large piece of that wallet. So the Tura is buying almost all of their item, whichever item that might be, from this customer, from this client. Where number 5 here at McElhaney, they have a very low wallet share. So it's a relative ranking, because it's tough for us to know really what percent we get from our customer unless we ask them, which we'll get into in a second. So this is a wallet rank, because now we want to know where can we get more money. You also probably want to know what's the profile of this customer. How do they buy from you? Are they price sensitive? Are they really focused on relationship? Is it a service reason, a value? Why do they buy from you? And then who are they? Is it a chain? Is it a distributor? Is it a retailer? Where's that? What type of customer is that? This is all going to help you understand who do we want to focus on and who do we want to go after to generate more sales. Now, the question you're probably asking right now is, well, geez, Chris, take the wallet share or buying profile. How do we figure that out? Well, there's a new concept that we've learned. It's called Ask Your Customer. And this is where we're going to talk a little off on understanding who your customer is. And having done a lot of work with many, many clients, again, mostly on the private side, they don't know their customer very, very well at all. They don't know why they buy from them. And what we're going to do now, let's talk a little about your customer. In fact, I'm going to turn it over to George, and he's going to give you about what are the 4 things you need to know about your customer. George?
The key things is just simply to ask. And, it's kind of like interviewing anybody or getting to know somebody in a casual conversation. You just got to be able to ask the questions. And one of my favorite cliches is the answer is always no unless you ask. Then you got a 50-50 chance of success. And you can take that, wherever you want to go. But, in the interaction with the customer, you need to ask them, what are you buying? And how much? And how do you decide who and where to buy from? And do you have guidelines to work with, as far as the vendor allocation? Or, are you pretty much open to wherever they want to go? And really what makes them tick. Why would they change from one to the other? And a lot of times it's just simple as asking for the business, building that relationship through a little bit of conversation as to what are they going to do and why are they going to do it. Pretty simple stuff.
And so the question here to the audience is, how well do you have the answers to these questions? Knowing, what are they buying, not just from you, but in total, and who decides who to buy. For those that may have asked these questions in the past, why don't you buy more from me? Sometimes the answer is, well, we've got an allocation. We buy a third from 3 different vendors. That's just how we do it. But why would they change that? And these are some of the questions that need to be understood. So how do you do that? We're going to script a little conversation here. And if I can figure out where my, there it is, I lost my screen here. I'm going to show you how we do that. In fact, we're going to go through, and George is actually going to walk through an example. This is an example of if he was SIG or a SIG manufacturer or the distributor. And, these are all, not all, partially of some of the handguns that SIG offers. And we're going to do a little role play here. And George is going to play the person at SIG, and I'm going to play one of the customers. So we're going to walk through something like this to help them understand how this works.
Just to preface, currently there are right at 30 different models of SIG 226 that are available out there, and most people don't realize that. Even the major SIG buyers don't realize that. So with Chris as the buyer, I thank him for his order and ask him, do you order all your 226s from us? And if not, why not?
I'd probably say, sure, all the standard 226s, I get from you. Let's say you're the manufacturer. Obviously it's the only place to get it, so yeah, I buy them all from you.
And the key word there is standard. And, my part to play here is did you realize that we offer 30 different models of the 226? And just to give you something to work with, we offer them in 40 caliber, 357 SIG, 9mm, and even 22 long rifle. And we actually have conversion kits that would convert one from the other. So there's some more to work with there, other than just the standard.
And my response will be no. And I think when we've done this exercise, kind of off role play here, most customers don't know what you offer. And so I'll continue, but no, George, I didn't know you had, what did you say, 30 different versions?
30 possible options to work with. And then, we can go on. I've seen in the past you've ordered two-tone and a DAK model. Do you know why you just ordered those in the past and we haven't seen any orders on those in recent history?
I'd probably say no, I don't. I'm not sure why we had that order and why we haven't ordered it in the past.
And it could be something you got that from a special order or something like that. And I may take it from the point of if you had some more to offer, that you could probably sell more 226s if you had a wider variety other than just the standard model. And, again, reiterate that there are many different versions and, that they're all available and we have them in stock, and we'd love to be able to sell you some of these things.
So what I'm going to do, George, just because we're running a little behind on time, is to summarize here to say, by George asking me questions, he's asking me, did I know? Did I know you offered more than the 2 versions that I've purchased in the past? And the answer is no. And he'd go on to say, well, I can offer you some information. You can see some marketing information on these, and might bring up the fact that there's a promo going on. And then he'll go on to ask about holsters and magazine pouches, and And the question you might start with saying, Chris, do you buy these at all? And I said, sure I do. Well, I noticed you haven't bought them from us. Why is that? Usually the answer is I didn't know you offered them, or if I do know you're offered them, price hasn't met our needs or whatever it might be. And he'll go through this in a little exercise, and at the end, you see a question 7 here is, well, what do you like most about buying from our company? So all this is a conversation that, you can have, and your salespeople and sales reps, customer service reps can have every day with your customer, just asking a few different questions. This might be a little long, but they could ask a question or two to start collecting some intelligence. I'm going to move back a couple slides here to start filling in, this wallet rank, or how do they buy, and getting some intel. So that's what we're trying to do here through the customer conversation, is to learn more about the customer. Now, I'm going to add one more piece to this. It's called the 5 whys. And the point here is that you typically don't get to the real root of understanding until you ask the question why 5 times. It's just a frame of reference. And it works something like this, why do you buy from us? I like the services you provide. Again, typically when you ask that general question, why do you buy from us? I like the service. I like George. I like the relationship. And that's so high up it doesn't give you enough meat. Well, what is it about the service that you like? Well, I like it when I call, I get an answer. Well, that's nice. Is it important? What is it about the answer that you like? Well, it's timely. How often have you called an organization and they say, I'll get back to you, or, I don't have it right now, 2 days later. So is it important that your question's answered quickly? Yes, it is. Why is it? Well, I've got 4 or 5 people, that I'm working with that are waiting an answer on this. Oh, well, can't you get that question answered some other way? Well, not really, because you people do a great job. You're competent, and you're friendly, and you're responsiveness. So what we've done here is a quick peel away of the onion, as they will, into the layers. And what you found here is that this customer buys from you because your service organization is timely and accurate answers to questions that keeps 4 or 5 other people working. This is what we're talking about peeling this depth back. This 5 whys is a great framework to uncover that. Now, again, we're not encouraging you when you get an answer to go, why? Why? My kids can do that. I don't need, we don't need to hear that on the phone. We're going to, what I'm going to do right now is ask, we got a second poll here. And it's around the customer. And so the question that I have for you is, how often do you formally survey your customers? Okay, so there's one choice you have here. You do it more than 2 or more times per year. If you just click on whichever one you do, yearly you do it, every other year, or why would I ask our customers what they want? So if you just click on that, we'll give you a little feedback on how well everyone here listening understands their customer, or actually survey. Well, I'm assuming if you survey your customers, then you understand a little better of how to service them. This one's looking a little better, George. We're actually getting different responses.
Oh, I was going to say, what do you want to bet we're going to get different responses on this one?
I can see the polls. I can see them as they answer. And then in a second here, I'm going to close it, and I'll show everybody. It looks like just about everybody here voted. That's great. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this, and I will show it to everybody. And here's the share. And what do you see? I see the majority is every other year or so. I actually added that in a little later, or so. 62%. 15% do it yearly, 8% more than twice a year. That's great. But you also have 15% that never ask their customer. If I interpret this, the 8% that do it twice a year probably have a very formal system to do that, and maybe the yearly organizations. but 60, 70, 77% do it every other year or so or never. To me, says it's not really formalized. And if you don't do it formalized, you're probably not getting as good information as you can. Just some feedback for folks. Let me get back now to the presentation. One of the things you may have been asking is, where'd that go? Okay, so we've collected some of the information from our customer, and what we're doing now is we're just building this big matrix. This is still on that kind of part one of the matrix. What we've done now is we've taken that information, we started prioritizing how much dollars we think we can sell in rifles or shotguns or the total opportunity based on the conversations with the customer, based on some of the math of the previous columns that show where there's holes in the categories. We've then prioritized the customer. You can see here it's not always based on dollar, okay, because there's an ease of winning that dollar, or there's a profit involved, or there's take a customer here that's an MC company. You may have a great opportunity, but it may not be as profitable, okay? Or they may be embedded with a couple customers. So that's where the priority gets lower. So you do this kind of analysis to prioritize who you're going to go after, and then you also identify who the owner is in charge of that account. So you get your inside or outside. Basically, it's the sales rep. So you get to a point now where you have now a list of customers, opportunities, prioritized with an owner. We're ready to get going. Now, this is where I was going to say, usually get questions on, where do you get all this data, Chris? Some companies have computer systems that are fairly sophisticated. They go anything from the SAPs of the world down to QuickBooks. The ERP, or Enterprise Resource Planning computer system, if you don't do this now, what we usually recommend is to customize some fields. You can customize fields and everything from QuickBooks and up. So what's the channel that you're selling to? Who is this customer? How many locations do they have? What's the sales type? Is it a direct? Who's the sales channel? And then building the product hierarchy. We were working with an organization where they had all the SKUs. They actually sold a lot of revolvers, but they just had them all listed, but they didn't have them categorized into target or defense or other. And so just putting some of those categories in there gets you a hierarchy. You can obviously build some of the reports. You can use tools like CRM, Customer Relationship Management, gives you a whole bunch of insight on the customer, a lot of the conversations. We use Salesforce.com, love it. Microsoft Sales Logic, a couple others, and there's a Business Intelligence, again, is another tool, data mining, where you can kind of collect and aggregate a bunch of different information or data in the company. So as you get into this, you're going to need to probably do some changes to your database so you have this information. And again, you'll be using it year in, or excuse me, week in and week out. Okay, let's get started. Let's implement the plan. Now, one of the things that I'll boast that Growth Strategy Partners is good at is getting results quickly. And that is because we understand how to cheat very, very well. Well, maybe not cheat's a good word, but we understand that after you right now, everyone here listening probably knows of a customer or two or five that you've got sales opportunities in. It's just a matter of kind of sitting down for an hour and getting organized and making some phone calls. That's the Quick Start program. Not to minimize the fact you should go through a full analysis, but you should do some quick starts and get some quick results and goes, hey, this thing works, and a little pilot program. So let's show you, if you did that, this gets back to this going with your gut, okay? You know right now where there's some opportunities, and we need to chase that. So the quick start, you'll see here, find some customers that are lower risk. They're not the big ones. They're, priority 2 or 3. You want to test this out. Train some people, do a little test, work on it weekly, and then formalize and expand it. That's the Quick Start program. Here's your full program, and I go through this real quickly because I want to get to the end so we can get some time for questions. So if you have questions along the way, so you can start putting those in now, and we'll get to those in a few minutes. The full selling program, the full cross-selling program, you got the analysis, that's the matrix. We got to talk about linking promotional programs. We didn't spend a lot of time on the promotional program side, but by linking the promotional programs, whether it be discounts, buy one, get one, even just some marketing campaigns, is going to make this cross-selling a lot more successful. It's integrated marketing. You could talk an hour on that alone, but again, we can't today. What are the goals? How are you going to measure this? Training, run a little pilot program, implement that program, and then review and adjust it. So, so this is sort of an 8-step program here. It's very important when you do this to provide some training to the people. This is a project. They need to understand, what's the goal here? What are we doing? And maybe there's some product training. George here, lived and breathed SIG and could probably tell you all the different nuances of the, 30 different, 226 models. Well,
there's many different, but, you can't get down into the weeds too far. Key points is the name of the game.
Key points, right? So training on your products to your salespeople so that they understand the benefits and comparison products that they're selling to. They're going to get on the phone and someone's going to say, well, geez, I like my Smith & Wesson over the SIG or the HK, and how can they compare and contrast that? Many of the high-performing organizations we work with will provide monthly training on products. In fact, you get a lot of the manufacturers, I'm sure, very happy here to provide more training to their distributors. Some cross-selling training. That was some of the role plays that we were talking about. And 5 whys. So don't minimize the training. And then when you set the implementation, think about what are some realistic goals. So what do you want out of this? You're looking for another 2%, 5%, 10% in sales through cross-selling? How about you penetrate the top 10 customers by 10%? And then you can work it from there. Make sure you have your reviews, okay, early on. Most people listening to again are in the sales management role. You need to sit with your sales people on a one-to-one basis. Help them overcome the individual phone call. When I've got a few inside salespeople, and we'll even work one-on-one with a particular challenge they're having, trying to get a hold of a certain customer. And that little brainstorming together helps them overcome that. And obviously, don't forget about rewarding success. We talked a little about measurements. How do you measure performance? So when you look at cross-selling, you're trying to sell more of your existing items to your existing customers. So measure how many new items you've sold to them, or measure the sales dollar increase or the category increase, whether it be a dollar increase or a % increase in sales of that category, that item to the customer. Okay, that way there you'll measure how much or how much better you're getting with this. So and this is key. This is where some organizations start the program, but they don't measure it. Therefore, we don't know how well we're doing. So I'd encourage you before we even get started to start some measurements. Let me I think we got one more slide here, George, and then we can get some questions. I see we've got actually some questions here. Okay. So let's summarize here. I got summary, I've got a poll, and then we'll do some questions. The summary is this. Where we started with the market demand changing, okay? It is slowing down. We still have clients that have a year backlog, but if we don't, it's almost to me the perfect time to start putting in these refined systems so that we can be more successful in a year, 2, and 3 from now when things really may slow down. Cross-selling back to that quadrant 1 is the best revenue-generating approach. Why chase new customers when you can sell to existing? Well, I've seen stats cost you 7 times more to 14 times more to sell to a new customer versus an existing. If you don't know who your customers are or what they buy, you'll definitely be challenged with sales. If selling isn't a priority, it should be. You've heard what gets measured gets done, and it's up to you. Now, I'm going to ask one more poll question here, and then I'm going to get to some of the questions that we have. I'm looking at my thing here. We've got about 8 minutes left. So I'm going to put out this poll, and the poll is this. The big challenge I will have with implementing, it's being shown, right? There we go. The biggest challenge I have with implementing this program is adding it to my project list. Maybe I don't have enough products, smaller, earlier company. The data, I may have a hard time getting that data. Training my salespeople, maybe there's not enough education on the training that's required. Or you may not believe there's a great potential in cross-selling. So would everybody just click off one of these, and then we'll show that results in a few minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to look at some of the questions we've got.
Chris, let me throw one little tidbit in there while we got a second. On the training end of things, those of you that are distributors or dealers, when you got a new product in, you need to ask the manufacturer for some key data points on that gun. Sights as an example, or trigger. What's different? What's going to make us put this gun above others and be able to sell it? And for the manufacturers, you need to study the market just a little bit and find out why your gun's better and be able to state, 3 to 5 points why this particular product is more attractive to the customer than anything else out there. And it doesn't need to be long and involved. It can be just a short type thing. The other thing to do is hold webinars on your new products so that the dealers, distributors, and other people down the chain can learn this stuff, right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. It's all in communication, and good communication, regular communication.
Thanks, George. We got everybody voted here, so I'm going to close the poll, and I'll share it with everybody. Anyone take a guess what the biggest challenge is going to be? Usually I think it's adding it to the list, but actually they came in second. So 33% saying adding it to my project list because I don't need another project. Very few have issues with product line expansion. Obtaining the data on who's buying was the largest one. That's interesting because, and usually that's the starting point. Now, I'll share this with everybody because we've had this, again, problem before, but I'm saying it's not as simple as putting some information into your database or adding some fields, but it is going to be a building process. And you're going to want this information as you grow. So, start, if anything, getting the data collected. If you cannot generate a report that shows what customer sold what, or excuse me, which customer bought what in units and sales dollars, that's a bigger issue. I've actually got a client with that issue now. We're putting in a new system for them to help them collect that information. And they're still doing some export out of the system and import into spreadsheets, but we can get that information. And it's powerful. You won't know where to go without the data. So that would probably be the first thing I'd suggest that you start with. George, anything you want to add on that? You've talked about the training, which is important.
Yeah,
and the project list.
Communication back and forth is key and paramount. Going in both directions.
Okay, so let me. What I'm going to do now is hide this, and I'm going to look at some questions. I saw some questions here. Do you know a good CRM that is free or inexpensive? Okay, sorry, I didn't finish the whole thing. The CRM is Customer Relationship Management. We use Salesforce.com. It's $65 per month per user. We find that very affordable. It's very customizable. It's online. If you have traveling salespeople, they can actually get it on their phones. We found that's really it's very successful. We've worked with 3 or 4 others, and we've just been very happy with Salesforce. Another question I'm seeing here is recording the presentation be on the website by tomorrow morning. Okay, well, I don't know about tomorrow morning. Recording will probably not be by tomorrow morning. It might be there by Friday.
Yeah, remember it's Chris's birthday, so as soon as we shut this thing down, he's cutting out the lights and hanging up the phone and disappearing for a while.
Well, you and I got a little work to do, but then that's going to be shortly thereafter, correct? Someone asked about Epicor. Again, it has pros and cons. When you're looking at computer systems, whether it be an enterprise system with financials or a CRM package just for customer, here's the cheat, the quick thing on this. Write down the top 10, no more than 10 critical needs that you want this thing to do. When you're buying a computer system, it should be geared for either a manufacturing environment or a sales and service environment. Usually they don't do both very, very well until you start buying some large systems. So identify what you want out of this without even looking at some of the packages, and then see how well those packages meet those requirements. Too often people have a list of 50 things they want it to do, and most of them do a lot of that, but what are the critical core, needs that you have? That's the thing I would ask you to focus on. Kyle, if you want to call me about Epicor or some of the others, and I think it was John had the other CRM question, feel free to give me a ring and we can chat more about that. 1 or 2 more questions. We use sales reps, which we really don't control. How do you develop a program for them? So you don't control your sales reps, so what are they doing for you? Sales reps are an extension of your sales force, and they carry a lot of different things. We found that the organizations that give their sales reps more attention, more focus, more guidance, the more successful they are. And you can almost look at your sales reps as a customer at the same time. What are you selling? Why aren't you selling our stuff? What do you need from us to be able to sell more? Is our prices too high? They're almost like a customer. They're actually interfacing with your direct customer. So I would ask that. IC 159, and someone was asking about contacts. So I'm going to wrap it up right now and do this. Calls or questions. The next slide, okay, you'll have George and my contact information. We're going to send this presentation out probably later on today, tomorrow. But call us with questions. We'd be glad to help you answer some of these simple questions. If you need more help, that's what we do. We do design these surveys and conduct these surveys, and we build these matrices, and we help you identify how to put those fields in place and collect the data and even do full sales assessments. That's kind of what we do. As you heard earlier from Mo, he rattled off a dozen or so of the companies in the industry. We know the industry very, very well, yet we've got great skills around consulting and growth. So if you need some help and you want to get ahead, you want to beat the competition, and you don't know how to do it, ask for an expert. Ask us or somebody else. So this is here's our contact information. If you want it immediately, you can write down my phone number and give me a call. I'll be here until my party starts around 3 Eastern. And you've got our emails, but we're going to send the presentation out, which will have this contact information at the end of it, maybe later today or tomorrow. So with that, I want to first thank Mo and NASGW for sponsoring this and inviting us to do this. George, it's always been a pleasure. It's not that we don't talk enough.
Yeah, I understand. And, I thank everybody for listening, and I do use this as a resource. We've got our fingers in just about every pie in the firearms industry one way or the other, and whether it applies to selling or anything else, if you standing there contemplating your navel, wondering, what's next, give us a call, and we can probably point you in the right direction. We have a lot of depth.
So thank you, everybody. I'll look at some more questions, and I'll try to get some emails back to those I didn't answer. But thank you for attending, and look forward to talking to you later.
All right. Thank you.